Welcome back to WCCF Tech TV. Today it is Keith again, and we are taking a look at the mid-tower by Bitfenix known as the Aurora. Now this is a tempered glass mid-tower, and it's quite nice. We've got in the white edition, so let's take a look at the case itself and what features it brings to the table ahead of a build that we're working on. So here we are along the very top of the case. It has a nice contour along a straight line that matches the rest of the case. It does have ventilation here, and along the sides for the exhaust for the top radiator, provided you wanted to mount one. Now it does have support for up to a 280mm radiator in the top, or a 240mm, or I guess a 120 or a 140 if you wanted to, but we'll take a look at that more when we get to the inside. But we want to focus here is the exhaust vents that we have along the sides. We have a power button, reset button, and a lighting effect for the it has RGB capabilities to tie in with motherboard. It has motherboards with RGB functions, as well as being able to use that without those functions. But we have two USB 3.0, a headphone microphone, and two USB 2.0 ports. Now the top is removable. However, let's go ahead and pop this loose and I'll show you a kind of a complaint that I have here. Biggest complaint that I have is cables are attached to the top. I would have liked to have seen that to be its own panel, but here you can see the mounts. You'll have to remove this to mount a radiator to the top. So that's one of the reasons why it's a bit of a problem for me. Now it does have this metal bracket here, which is actually a reservoir mounting bracket. And we'll take a look at that once we get inside it. So you can mount a reservoir to the top, to the front, or to the side. But let's go ahead and pop this back on, and we'll continue on to the front of the case. The front of the case is a pretty I don't want to say lackluster affair, but it is a bit void of details since it is missing a 5 1/4 inch bay. There's not one there, as well as anything else really. It's a nice front panel that shows, we'll move some lights around so we can see a little better, but the whole front is a mesh intake, so this is all intake behind here. The front is fairly easy to move to the top. I'm going to move it a little bit so that I can get a good grip under it and pull the front right off. So there's the front. Front comes right off of the case, leaving the opening for a pair of 120mm fans or a 240, or even a radiator, provided you wanted to do that. Now it does have screws here, and we'll look at what those go to once we move our way on the inside of the case. So I haven't taken the sheet off of it because I'm going to do that once we're done with the build, but we're going to go ahead and take the side panel off. It's pretty simple. It uses the very common 4-nut method, I guess you could say, or 4 bolts. It's just 4 screws that hold each corner on. But I will say, compared to what they used with the Shogun, I actually like the backing behind it a lot better. So it comes off, of course, like I said, with these 4 thumb screws. I don't know why I call them everything else in the world, but we'll go ahead and set those to the side. We'll go ahead and pull this off. It's actually on there really good. It's not going to just fall off. That was a concern that I had the first time. So we'll take it and we'll move it out of the way, and as you can see, it is very darkly tinted, which I very much like that, especially whenever you see inside that it surprisingly doesn't have a power supply shroud, which is quite common for a case like this. But now this part was bolted up. I took it out. It's the manual for it. We'll go ahead and set that to the side, and it's the accessory box. Just take a quick look through here. You'll see it's not a whole lot going on. And it does have 3.5 inch drive bay sleds, which are held together here. It has the SSD Aurora mount, which is kind of cool. We'll take a look at that whenever I actually do the full build. This is to illuminate the SSD that you can mount in here, which we'll take a look at that. All the screws come in one little baggie. It does come with a speaker, which is nice, and a few zip ties. So all of that out of the way, let me get these screws together, and we'll dig in and take a look at the actual inside of the case. Alright, so here we are on the inside of the case, where you can clearly see the mounts up here. This is where the radiator is, or top mounted fans that you would use, would be set up and outside of the tray. As far as, we've got a spot here for your 8-pin, a spot here for fan cables, or even an 8-pin, because some X99 boards they plug in right there. So that's nice to see that there. It comes with the standoffs pre-installed for the an ATX motherboard, but if we shift over here to the rear We've got the rear I/O obviously, and then it comes with a single 120mm fan, which is kind of a disappointment for the price of the case. I mean, it's a $100 case and it only comes with a single fan, but we'll move on from that here quickly. It comes with thumb screws for the PCI Express expansion ports, which is nice because thumb screws really should be at this price point what you get. You shouldn't get regular Phillips head screws. This helps with in your installation. Now, it does come with push throughs for water cooling, but a lot of people call it for water cooling, but I think at this day and age there's not a whole lot of external water cooling going on, but this could be good for internal routing of like Wi-Fi modules. You can mount the fan out here, or even controllers for LEDs, what have you. Gives you that option. Now, it does have nice rubber grommets for your cabling, even a much larger one down here at the bottom for your cables from your power supply, which is useful because you don't have a power supply shroud. This is kind of old school in the sense that you've just got the where you set your power supply in here. Now, it does have a filter on the bottom and it is removable, so but you have to like reach way under here, and it comes out, but it's kind of a disappointment, to be quite honest. But again, you've got your power supply mounting here. It can support a pretty long one. Now, moving towards the front here, you can see the 3.5-inch mounted drive bay down here at the bottom. It's quite rigid. You got to put a good bend on it to get it to move, but using the sleds, they just slide right in. And it does have here where you can mount, well, looks like you can mount the, oh, that thing is in there, good. But that's a 2.5-inch SSD mount with the cable routing holes on the bottom, so you can mount it up there. And I'm going to pull this back out. This is the Aurora module, the attachment. It actually, you'd have to screw it on to there, so you'd have to take that out and mount it, but it goes, let's see if I can get it on here while it's mounted, but this will give you an idea of kind of how it goes in there. So it's crooked as all get out right now, but it helps cover up that hole as well as provide LED light up here. So let me move that back out of the way so it's got your headers in there. Moving things along to the front, this is the inside of that mount. You can see the honeycomb there. It will restrict airflow coming in, which is kind of a bummer, but that's just the nature of that design. Now, on first glance, if you look up here, you're probably thinking, why does it have a 5.25-inch drive bay holder? But it really isn't. This is for more 3.5-inch drives. So you can have 2 in the bottom and 2 in the top, so 4 total, and 1 SSD mounted on the back. But let's go ahead and move to the back and see just what's behind the motherboard tray. So here we are behind the motherboard tray, and I'm probably sure right off the bat you see the little PCB here. This is for the Aurora controller. So this goes to the top button on the top, so you can turn it on and off and change it, but it comes with a Molex adapter. That way, if you don't have an RGB header, you can still utilize that. And you can see the cables run down here, and you've got 2 SSD mounts on the backs, or 2 SSD or 2.5-inch drive mounts. You can see the cutout here for the bottom hard drives, and then here for the front mounted SSD. Now, the cutout for the CPU cooler is rather large. It's plenty big enough. It should accommodate any type of motherboard and cooler that you'd want to put there. And I can say it is a nice amount of space behind here. So I can put my hand behind here. So I mean, it's good room for cable management. It has plenty of tie down points all through here around it to help you route your cables in a way that really keeps them flush. Something to consider here, which is really nice. This is the back panel, and you can see, hi, that's me there. It is not transparent whatsoever. It's actually painted on the back so that you don't have to worry about being able to see cables through it. So guys, this has been a quick overview and a first look at the Bitfenix Aurora case. We are working through a build. Some of the parts are finalized. It will be a Ryzen setup. It's going to use the 1500X on the B350 Tomahawk motherboard by MSI. And graphics card isn't quite set in stone. We're still talking to some people about that one, what we're going to use, and we're going to put it all together, show you how a build looks in here, and then how said build performs at a reasonable price point. So this has been Keith with WCCF Tech TV. If you found this video informative or entertaining in the least, feel free to subscribe, like, or leave a comment if you have anything you'd like to ask us about this case, and we will see you in the next video.